Hey everyone, this is Kieran. Today's exercise is looking at how to start strengthening our groin muscles in here. So if you've hurt your groin before, or you've got things where you want to maybe improve your ability to move sideways, then this will probably be a nice exercise progression for you. When we're looking at groin-related pain, it's part of this grouping of pain around the hip that we call extra-articular hip pain. And intra-articular means that the pain is coming from a structure inside the joint, and there'll be other things in the other ingredient pool creating that experience of pain. But then we're looking at other structures outside the joint. And so the adductor-related pain, or adductor-related hip pain, is one of those things. And you've got some other ones around like your hip flexors, your abdominals, and some inguinal area, which we might cover in some other videos. But one of the common exercises you see for groin stuff these days is the Copenhagen exercise. And we have another video for that. It's a great option. But this is another also nice option, and the research supports its use as well, particularly in athletic populations. And so this can be a nice progression from the sideline groin exercise, which again we have another video for. I can link up here. And if this feels too hard for you, then you can jump back to that video and have a look. Now, just some quick anatomy. You've got 5 groin muscles. Roughly, if you put your hand like that, you've got the fingers tracing each 5 of them. So you've got your pectineus or pectineus here. You've got your adductor brevis, your adductor longus, which is your primary adductor. And then you have your adductor magnus and your gracilis. And the gracilis is the one that crosses the knee joint, whereas the others kind of cross just that hip joint, and so they only act on the hip. Now, you can manipulate which of them might get biased a little bit by, as you adduct, turning the foot in or turning the foot out. It's not saying that you're isolating a muscle, but you are biasing the fibers of one of them. Because some of these groin muscles are more on the front, and they're better at doing adduction plus flexion, and some of them are better at adduction and extension. So I'm going to go backwards and extend. So different capacities. And you see something like the adductor magnus contributing a tremendous amount to something like a squat, and that ability to hip extend on the way up. Okay? So how do you set up? Either you got a cable machine or you got an elastic band. I've got a little ankle attachment here. Most gyms have one of those. I'm going to pop this around my left ankle. And what have I got that on? So it's a 2. You can stick around sort of 15 reps or so. One of the articles, which I'll reference in the video here, over 8 weeks went from a 15 rep max down to an 8 rep max, I believe. And they found significant increases in strength. So you can kind of use that as a framework. But what does that mean? It means if I can blast way past 15 reps, then it's probably too easy. If I cannot do 8 reps, then it might be too hard. Right? So it gives you, well, can I find a weight that allows me to do that amount of reps? Have something for a bit of balance. At this weight, I don't need it. But if I jumped up to, say, like a 6, so that's triple the amount of weight, I definitely would need something that gives a little bit more stability. And that's okay. It's not meant to be a balance exercise, but the balance component's helpful for this leg because the groin on this side is also doing some work so I don't fall over. Okay? So some of that rotation we were talking about, if I turn my foot in like this, I'm going to be biasing more the extensor adductors, so more magnus, more the gracilis. And then if I want to do the flexion-based ones, if I turn the foot out like this, now I'm getting more of like the pectineus, brevis, and then the adductor longus is kind of involved all the time anyway. So depending on where you've had an injury, you might be able to turn out and bias a little bit and be like, well, maybe that was easy, but if I turn in, all of a sudden it becomes a lot harder. All right? Now, I've got that little lip to stand on. It just makes it more comfortable in that my foot doesn't hit the ground on every rep. Not a necessary thing. How would you set this up without a cable machine? So you could do this at home with a band. If you just anchor it onto something, it doesn't have to be this thick. This might be too thick even, but if I pop that around there, and so it's anchored a little bit too high, but it's it's essentially the same thing, right? So into there, you want to keep resistance on the whole time. And so you're just doing that same movement. The reason I like the cable machine is because the resistance is constant, whereas with the elastic band, it's a little more variable. Pros and cons, but I like the weight being a little more constant and leave the variableness to things like sprinting, change of direction, in more that athletic, unpredictable type environment. So yeah, you'll still get stronger doing this though. Research supports that. And I'll put the reference in the write-up. And yeah, so great little option to progress things. Definitely recommended as part of a groin rehab program, or just as what I'd call like a supplementary program for sports, for multidirectional sports. You know, like things like bodybuilding or powerlifting, they're going to have accessory exercises that they use to maintain the health, well, not necessarily health, but the longevity of their joints. Longevity just being that they can keep performing. So I might do like 2 6-week phases twice, well, a 6-week phase twice a year for say my elbows. And so I might do bicep curls and triceps extensions, and I'll do that a couple times a week for high volume, and do that a couple times a year to just make sure those guys are getting some exposure, because you have all these other big compound movements. And in football, depending on your position and the tactics throughout the season and how the weather changes, your groin may or may not get enough dose while you're playing. And so this is a nice way to make sure you're just getting enough of a dose through those muscles. And we know that increasing the strength in those muscles reduces the injury risk of a groin injury, and it also reduces the reoccurrence. So important to do, and I'd consider it as just a staple as part of your rehab program throughout the season. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.